What if the greatest threat to humanity isn't destruction from the outside, but the collapse of what it means to be from within? This is Martin Heidegger, and he is one of the most notoriously difficult philosophers. But he had something to say about being and the fate of humanity. The central pursuit of Martin Heidegger's thought is the question of being, not what things exist, but what it means for anything at all to exist. To understand whether the fate of humanity is doomed or saved, we have to understand some of Heidegger's concepts. In Being and Time, Heidegger tells us to understand being we must look not at abstract ideas, but at the being who questions it, the human being, or as he calls it, Dasein. Dasein is the kind of being that, unlike your dog or your toaster, can lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering if its life has any meaning. Think of it like consciousness or awareness. A hammer, for example, has being, but it's not aware of its being. But humans, and perhaps some funky aliens, have this unique quality of being aware of our own being. And this quality, Dasein, has a few characteristics. First, Dasein is thrown into the world. We don't choose our bodies, our families, or our childhood internet histories. Heidegger calls this thrownness, the fact that we're born into conditions we never agreed to. You might land in a peaceful country or a war zone, in a loving home or a broken one, with beliefs already handed to you before you could speak. That's not failure, that's the human condition. We just wake up one day somewhere between a womb and a world and go, oh, this is happening. Thrownness means we're not the authors of our starting point, but we are responsible for how we carry it forward. Second, Dasein is being in the world. That sounds obvious until you realize how much philosophy has tried to separate the mind from the world. But for Heidegger, you are always already involved. The world is already meaningful in relationships or routines or Spotify playlists or debt. And third, Dasein is temporal. We don't just exist in a single moment. We stretch across time, haunted by the past, grounded in the present, and constantly throwing ourselves into some imagined future where we finally have a skincare routine. And fourth, Dasein is the only being that asks the question of being. It is self-aware, capable of wondering not just what is, but what it means to be, which makes us both very fascinating and deeply annoying. And in this way, Heidegger radically transforms our view. Being is not just a distant metaphysical object, but something that is revealed within and through Dasein's existence. Being always shows up through Dasein, through us, as we exist in a specific time, place, and culture. You didn't choose to be born this way, but here you are. That's thrownness. But here's the twist. What happens when the being that used to question the world starts designing the world it questions? In our modern times, an inversion has taken place. Dasein has started to take control over the very conditions that shape how it exists. Historically, Dasein was thrown into worlds shaped by culture, by language, biology, and tradition. Dasein now increasingly shapes these very conditions through technology, AI, ideological frameworks, and digital landscapes. We have both become sculptors and sculptures, authors and protagonists in a drama whose ending is unclear. Take for instance the phenomenon of algorithmically curated social media. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram not only reflect our preferences, they actively construct them, feeding Dasein a tailored world of values, aesthetics, and attention loops that subtly change our identity, perception, and even our desires. Or consider CRISPR and gene editing. We are now capable of rewriting biological thrownness itself. We can choose traits for future generations and thus pre-designing the conditions of human existence. For the first time in history, this is possible. And so in these examples, Dasein no longer simply adapts to a given world. It manufactures the very contours of the world that it will inhabit. And this moment mirrors the ancient story of Adam and Eve. Once merely inhabitants of a given paradise, their eating from the tree of knowledge marked the dawn of self-awareness. Modern humanity is no longer receiving existence. We are now manufacturing our own existence. Algorithms predict our desires, digital media crafts our identities, and biotechnology reshapes our bodies. Dasein's thrownness is crafted by itself. So here's the question. Is this new power a creative leap toward profound complexity? Or is this a slow motion implosion, collapsing the very structure of being? So, humanity now holds the power to sculpt its own being. But this unprecedented control may either ignite a creative evolution of existence or trigger the collapse of the very structure that makes being possible. So, on the one hand, this epoch holds extraordinary potential. Our technological and ideological tools allow explorations and realizations of what it means to exist. Social networks transcend geographical limits. AI expands cognitive abilities, and biotechnology promises new frontiers for human life. And just as language once burst open new worlds of meaning, perhaps our current tools are enabling an existential creativity that will enrich and deepen the human being. On the other hand, Heidegger himself warned of the peril of enframing, where everything, including ourselves, is reduced to mere resources to optimize and to exploit. When human existence is reduced to measurable data and into algorithmic efficiency and truth sacrificed to utility, we risk losing the very clearing where being appears. Instead of enriching experience, we may drain it of meaning, leaving only hollow simulations behind. And this path leads not to existential flourishing, but to ontological collapse, an implosion where our drive for control erodes the very structure of being itself. So here we are, at a crossroad. Dasein has acquired the power to define its own existential conditions. Yet, it remains uncertain whether this power signifies liberation or imprisonment. The question is no longer simply, what is being? But rather, can being still authentically reveal itself when we presume to master it? Whether the human story ends in tragedy or unfolds as a great becoming, we cannot yet know. We may be walking the road of self-destruction, hollowing out the essence of being in our pursuit of control. Or we may be stepping into a new epoch, one that deepens the complexity of what it means to be a human. Between collapse and creation, we stand at a threshold. So which road do you think we are taking?